Hello and welcome to the G3 Pulse podcast. I'm delighted today to have James Maida, CEO of GLI, Gaming Laboratories International, on the podcast with us today. Hi, James. How are you doing?
Hey, Lewis, how are you?
Very good. Yeah, very good. Nice to see you. I believe that you're actually quite a dab hand at the podcast these days. I've turned the tables a little bit by being the host, but you've been running some yourself, the Illuminating Conversations. How's that going?
We have been. It's been really great. Are trying to interview people that are not expected for us to be interviewing, and
Yeah.
we have some great ones coming up. And getting people from all walks of the industry, all places around the globe, and people who I've known for a long time, and some that I've never met. So it's really been fun.
Well, I'm talking about our podcast today. We wanted to invite you onto to the show just to talk about. You wrote an open letter to the industry, your to clients and partners around the world, and we'll go into some of the finer details of that. But I wanted to ask you, what is it you actually wanted to, as a kind of big picture, communicate?
Lewis, we're not a publicly traded company, and we don't put out results or put out much public things about our company. And so I thought that it was important for everybody to know what we were thinking throughout the pandemic,
Okay.
those kinds of things that we've been working on, and frankly, really acknowledge the unprecedented times that we live in. Who would have thought that the entire gaming industry globally, or let's just say the entire land-based industry globally,
Yeah.
would have been shut down for 8 to 12 weeks, someone in that time frame. And I thought it was important to let all of our clients, our partners, regulators, even our employees, we've been doing a lot of good things during the pandemic, even though unfortunately it's been difficult for all of us.
Sure.
How do you make lemonade out of lemons? And that's kind of what really the subject of the letter is.
You mentioned in the letter that you took time to reflect on the business. I just wanted to ask you what you meant by that, and how did that kind of reflection manifest itself? What kind of conclusions you
Right.
drew?
Yeah, so I kind of thought, all right, we're all in this pandemic together.
Mm.
Gaming Labs is uniquely situated in that we don't make a product, right? So we
Yeah.
have to wait for those who are making products to come back to the market. We sort of are catchers, not pitchers, to use a
Yeah.
baseball
Okay. Yeah, I get that.
term. And we have to wait for everybody to get ready and start submitting. So
Sure.
while we were thinking about that, we thought to ourselves, how often is someone going to have a year off or 6 months, or, and frankly, we didn't even know how long, to really look at the entire business and try to reimagine what it will look like when we emerge. And obviously, as we're doing this video today,
Yeah.
we're still in the process of opening offices. So
Yeah.
I just thought to myself, rather than everybody waiting to reopen, I was worried that we were going to run out of time and we weren't going to get all the things done that, frankly, we wanted to do for many years. But the daily business got in the way. So
Right.
it was, I thought, a great time for a timeout.
Okay. And I mean, it wouldn't have happened. Do you think you would have done it if there hadn't been the pandemic? Is it one of those things that this has brought something about that needed doing, but the pandemic just gave you the actual time to reflect?
Yeah, I think that reflection is something that can happen at any time, and we could have done this even there wasn't a pandemic.
Okay.
But I think that um, we were able to focus much more because there was less things to do during the
Okay. Yeah.
pandemic. So I think it was a uniquely once in a lifetime negative situation, and we thought, how are we going to turn this into a positive situation?
Okay. Okay. You mentioned that you wanted to ensure GLI's global team continue to serve. Really, you mentioned shifting needs of your clients. Did you get in touch with clients personally? And I just wonder what have they been telling you in this interim?
Well, I think their shifting needs were everything from uh, we don't know when we can deliver the products for testing.
Okay.
We're not sure how to pay our bills. Uh, we need a little bit of slack, cut us a break here and there. Um, how did we deal with our customers when we were working remotely and they were having to send things in?
Okay.
Many of our customers shifted to iGaming and sportsbook and sports betting and tried to make a run of it
Okay.
with their digital assets, which
Yeah.
they could. And so our business shifted much more towards the digital um, at the time during the pandemic.
You also mentioned about that clients didn't just want a trusted testing lab; they also wanted a strategic advisor. I just wonder
Right.
how has that changed in terms of you mentioned about the different roles, but being the advisor to your clients, and I know you've done similar things in the past, but what changed from the pandemic's point of view?
Yeah, I think it was we didn't really do anything different. We've always been
Okay,
strategic advisors to our customers and clients. I think many of our customers knew that we were. Many of our customers might have just viewed us as a test lab.
yeah,
Um, but it became clear during the pandemic that European companies, Asian companies needed access to the American market because of the rapidly growing iGaming and sportsbook and sports betting and those things in the United States. Equally so, our American based companies needed access to Europe, where iGaming was in full bloom and,
okay,
and, and going quickly before the pandemic. So many of our customers figured, people are short staffed, people are having trouble executing because the pandemic sent everybody home.
yeah.
How can we most help everyone? And you know, a lot of people called us for advice, from day to day business advice to how do I get this product released?
Okay. You mentioned a little bit about the kind of disruption, and in the sense that disruptive can actually be a positive thing in terms of the transition that operators are making towards cashless as well. You mentioned iGaming and digital, but cashless is a big part of that as well. And what kind of specifically has GLI done to help customers along that journey?
Well, the pandemic, many commentators say that the pandemic has pulled technology infrastructure ahead uh, at a quicker rate than it normally would have happened, right? So,
Right. Yeah.
so things have happened, whether it's remote work, using Teams, using Zoom. I doubt many people use Teams or Zooms like we've been using them over the past year.
Yeah.
Um, we we see customers were had to shift rapidly to iGaming and sportsbook, and then we also saw regulators.
Yeah.
Um, in the United States was a place where we were very much delayed in the digital space,
Yeah.
whether it's iGaming or sportsbook, and now there isn't a month or a week that doesn't go by that's there's a new compact, tribal compact, or there's a new state that has passed laws, or a new lottery like Tennessee implemented sportsbook. So um, I think that America, the United States, and now even Canada with their pending
Yeah.
legislation has sped up our adoption of this digital gaming much more quickly than had we not had the pandemic.
And yeah, kind of just thinking there off the question was that globally, being a truly global company, has that kind of helped? Because obviously you have mature markets for iGaming, you have immature markets for sports betting, as you were mentioning. But GLI has that kind of global footprint. Has that been kind of crucial in the speed to market for customers as well?
Right. So while things might be new in the U.S. or think for regulators here in the U.S., um, we've been doing it in Europe quite a long time.
Yeah,
So the client in the United States, or those regulators or manufacturers or operators that need our assistance, well, we've been doing this for the last 10 years.
yeah,
So it's been a great collaboration between our European technical development team, our European client relations teams, and our US teams that have been built up during this pandemic, and um, great collaboration. So we are getting people and regulators and markets open much quicker because we are able to rely on what we've been doing for the last 10 or 15 years.
You also touched upon the fact that you've been reshaping your leadership team and you've made a series of appointments and promotions in the last 12 months. I was just wondering what was driving that change and what's different about the structure of the business going forward.
I don't know that we really changed the structure of the business, but it also allowed us to reflect on sort of the middle tier management of our company, and it allowed us to, again, as things slow down and you have time to think about your business, you know, who is maybe some of those overlooked team members? Who are some of those people that we were just going so fast and they're doing such a great job? Um, and how do we reward them? How do we recognize them? Um, and obviously, during the pandemic, we all had to. Every business had to make choices about um, you know what to do with certain employees, how many to furlough,
Mm. Yeah.
how do you adjust your workforce when no casinos were open,
Yeah.
and then we tried to, as we put it all back together and brought everybody back, you know, who are the right people to lead us for the next 10 or 15 years. So we're very focused on what our business should look like in 10 or 15 years. And we want to make sure that we retain the talent, recognize the talent, and worked with all of those individuals that we see as the future of GLI.
Hmm, okay. And in the letter, you discuss the some of the challenges that they kind of globally we face with global cyber security as well.
Right.
And I was wondering, I know you can't go into specifics about threats, as that's not the way it happens. But I just wonder what
Right.
what Bulletproof's been dealing with, and whether COVID has been a factor in that different types of threats that we've been seeing.
Yeah. So what we've seen, we bought Bulletproof, you know, 7, 10 years ago, and they're totally integrated into our GLI family. So
Okay.
where we are testing online games or testing equipment that is attached to the internet, the bulletproof add-on is natural. In Europe, as you know, ISS audits, security audits,
Yeah.
those things are normal fare when you approve and certify equipment. I think as people went home and literally just grabbed their laptops and ran for their homes last March, people didn't think about the fact that hacking into a company and stealing a company's secrets could be done much more easy
Yeah.
when all of the laptops and all of the computers are located outside the the four walls
Yeah.
of a business that have largely been secured. So I think that ransomware, um, hackers, people causing massive disruption on networks has been at an all-time peak since
Right.
the pandemic started. Because frankly, there's a lot more targets, and we see it. We run a SOC, a Security Operations Center,
Yeah.
and we see more threats on a daily basis today than we've ever seen,
Wow.
even though
Okay.
we're almost completely out of the pandemic. So you heard about the high profile ransomwares that
Yes.
have happened not only in Canada, but in the United States, but and around the world.
Yeah.
This isn't going to go away anytime soon. And Bulletproof not only does gaming, and we do some of the highest profile operators and many suppliers and lots of iGaming,
Yeah.
but we also do non-gaming clients. So we
Okay.
have a large oil companies and large consumer product companies and banks and those kinds of things. And we've seen the same on that side as well.
Okay. You mentioned though about covering different sectors. I know, gaming, lotteries, and hospitality industries. You're working across all of those. I mean, in your view, which do you think has fared better during the pandemic, and which has suffered the most, and why?
Yeah, I think the who has suffered the worst is
Hmm.
land-based gaming,
Yeah.
mostly just because first we shut them down, then we made them put plexiglass between every single device or every table seating. And then we took half the slot machines away because we couldn't have people within 6 feet of them.
Yeah.
So running a casino, especially in resort areas, Las Vegas, Macau, Atlantic City, places that are more resort where people weren't traveling, that they got hurt way worse.
Yeah.
The regional casino markets fared better because people could at least drive there and they felt safe in their car and driving home.
Yeah.
So the land-based casino market, whether it's here in the United States or around the world, was hit the hardest. I think the people who had the best time of it was the digital folks.
Yeah.
They had it because they were the only game in town. It was the only way you could game. It was super safe to do it. And regulators and policymakers and legislators saw that, hey, if we don't do this, we will never be able to recoup this revenue. So they've actually been able to add to their
Yeah.
markets. So those were the feast and the famine. And then I think lotteries were somewhat in between.
Okay.
Lotteries were never really fully shut down, but some lotteries run video lottery terminals, so obviously they struggled.
Okay.
But the lotteries were closer to the digital than they were to the land based.
And in terms of that customer interaction from GLI's point of view, lots of work coming from the digital interactive side. But how have you been interacting with the land based and retail, during this kind of fallow period in which is it still a really important thing to keep in touch? And what have you been saying to them in the meantime?
Yeah, so many of our customers, and part of the reason why I wrote the letter is many of our customers were worried, can GLI test? What are you in the office? Are you not in the office? Where are you located? We had been working very hard in the 2 or 3 years leading up to the pandemic to be able to remotely test games that were not physically in our office.
Okay.
We were able to test games from one office to another office, so that we didn't have to ship games around the world. So most important thing is that we were able to quickly pivot and be able to test remotely.
Okay.
That allowed us to be able to call our clients and say, we are still open for business. Most people are like, oh my goodness, you're the lab that tests, you know, a super majority of the equipment around the world. I wanted them to know that we were okay, and I wanted them to know it was okay to be submitting to us. So
Okay.
we were quickly able to tell people we can do our jobs, and we haven't really missed a beat.
Okay.
Our approval timeframes have been about the same. Our teams have put in many hours of overtime to keep our businesses running. I couldn't be happier with the team.
Okay.
Um, but part of this letter was to communicate to everybody that yes, it's hard. We've been working through it, and now we're ready, right? And we've always been ready, and we're ready now. So we don't know when people are coming back, but we wanted everybody to know that we're ready. And to answer your question directly,
Hmm.
many companies were calling us saying, are you ready? And that's where we were really overly communicating to everyone.
All right.
We are here. We can handle the work. There's no backlog. Um, you're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. And we're going to give you all the flexibility that we can possibly give any customer. Because our goal, and this was our verbiage to all of our customers, we don't want to lose any of you during this pandemic. So when we all emerge, we all can emerge strong.
Okay. You've gone through most of the points of the letter at this point. Apart from your final sign off was you end the letter saying, talk about preparing for what's next. And I just wanted to ask you, James, what is next? What's next for you? What's next for the company?
Right. I think what's next is we have spent, other than the promotions that you've already referenced, and
Yeah.
and being able to be a more homogenized company, we're our total company is slightly over 1,300 employees globally. We work out of 24 offices. Uh, that we hired James Boget as our COO in Europe
Yes.
to help us through our next level of expansion. So what is next is we've done two things. One, we built out our client development team, uh, certain high profile hires, not only with respect to um, who is interacting with suppliers and regulators, but we just hired a director of our lottery practice,
Okay.
Angela Wong, last week, and so we wanted to make sure that our customer teams were fully built out. The second thing that we've been working on for about 3 months is we know that we need to hire about 100 testing people additional from where we are today, mostly because we think as we emerge from the pandemic, there will be more work than when we went into the pandemic because of the high volume of digital work.
Ah,
So
okay.
we are focused right now. Now that we have our management team really well set,
Yeah.
it's now to go and get the next stage of hiring. So we're working really focused on the hiring, but
Okay.
we're also working on employee satisfaction, Lewis, and making sure that as we come back to the office, um, there is the right level of employee satisfaction and talking to them and being flexible to each employee as they might have certain issues or pandemic related concerns
Yeah.
that they're still grappling with. So very much, our employees are our focus. Our employees are our team. You might think of it's the oil that runs the engine. Without a great team, none of this would be possible. So I think that's what you'll see through the rest of the year. Concentrate on our customers,
Yeah.
concentrate on our employees, and concentrate on getting things done.
All right. I mean, it was great to kind of talk to you about what was a really interesting letter that you sent out. As I say, that was the reason for asking you on the program today. I'm looking forward to getting Mr. Boger onto to one of the next the follow up podcasts as well. That'll be great to kind of get a nice little set of GLI interviews. But in the meantime, good luck with all the things that you have ahead of you, and good luck to the team that you're building as
Well,
well.
I hope to see you. I think we're having G2E live this year
Yeah,
in September,
lots of
October
fingers
of this
and
year.
toes crossed on that one. Yeah,
And I know that we missed a year of ice. As you know, it's one of my favorite shows. All of us are yearly track over to London, and we hope that we can all be back in person next February in London, because I think that's a very important international show, and I look forward to seeing you then.
no, the brilliant. It's a date, James. Pandemic willing, we'll see you shortly.
Absolutely. Thanks, Lewis, for
Right.
having me today.
Thanks a lot. Take care.